Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talkin Nets, episode 50. This is a milestone. 50 episodes in. Keith McPherson and Hudson Flynn coming to you on Sunday night. You'll be hearing this either late Sunday night, early Monday morning. And the Brooklyn Nets season is officially over. We've been swept by the Toronto Raptors in 4 games. But I feel kind of relieved. I feel kind of just ready to move forward and move on. I'm obviously proud of that team. I'm obviously proud of what they did. But the run is over. And also, your Brooklyn Nets being little brother is over. So we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to look forward to. But what we're not going to do is talk about the Raptors bench scoring 100 points tonight. Like, that's irrelevant. Good for the Raptors. Great for Toronto. I think they have a team that can compete for the Eastern Conference title, and I feel like they are out to prove something. So it's in order to say congrats to them. Congrats to, your side, Majori. Masai
Ujiri.
Probably butchering his name.
He's sick though. He's the best president in the NBA.
Shout out to him. We saw him pop up in the news, unfortunately, this past week with some videos that came out of, just being black and being discriminated against, just more of the same. But props to him and his franchise and his organization.
They handled it the right way.
Of course they handled it the right way. And, videotape don't lie. But the Toronto Raptors, they're the defending champs. We drew a first-round battle with them that, honestly, Michael Kay said it. He's like, the Nets are great, but I feel like they're going to turn back into a pumpkin in that series. And we did. We came back down to earth. The Bubble Nets shocked the world. The Brooklyn Bubble Boys, they had their great little run in the seeding games that will never be forgotten. But for the first time in a long time, we've been swept. And I think I said to a lot of people, we won't get swept. We won't get swept. And the fact that we got swept and it wasn't even close, there was maybe a couple close quarters, it's tough. So moving on, but letting Hudson Flynn step into the pod and say what he's got to say. What's up, Hudson? How you doing, bro?
Man, I'm doing good. How about Luka Doncic, though?
Yo, honestly, I watched that whole game, and I didn't even want to watch the Nets game. I watched that.
The high I went on from watching Luka hit that shot to, knowing what was going to happen in the Nets game, I was like,
that series has been great.
Damn.
See, now, you're a Nets fan, I'm a Nets fan, but we're NBA fans, and I know other people listening to this podcast are general NBA fans, too. That Clippers series has been great. From Porzingis getting ejected in Game 1 to Montrez calling Luka like a bitch-ass white boy.
Bitch-ass white boy.
It's just regular trash talk shit that, guys like that, they say that to black guys. Like, that's not that bad of a thing, but, on the internet, they turned it into a thing. It's entertainment. And then Luka comes out today. Kid was literally going off. I tweeted out, just watching that game, I was rooting for him the whole way. I had no doubts he was going to win it because he plays championship-level basketball. And I was pumped to watch that game. I called. I was like, let this game go to overtime because I'm not ready to watch the Nets. It went to overtime, and I enjoyed that. And honestly, I missed the first few minutes of the Nets game. I was watching the Padres sweep the Astros too. And then the Nets game got away from us so fast. I honestly wasn't glued to it. You knew what it was. I had tweeted out last night, let these boys go home, man. Let these boys pack up tonight and leave Orlando and get on a flight late tonight and be back in, New York area early this morning. It's time. They did what they had to do. Huge shout out to Jacques Vaughn, man. Can't say enough about the guy, and I don't think he's going to get the head coaching job, but he damn sure deserves it. And he's got nothing left to prove. They asked him a question on the post game about whether they thought he could coach Kevin Durant and Kyrie, and he said, at this point in my career, I'm good at adjusting, and he's coached these guys very hard. And huge shout out to the whole organization for everyone to suit up when we got the word that, okay, this bubble is going on in Orlando. There was half our team that opted out for COVID-19 reasons, family reasons, whatever. Big kudos and big props to the Brooklyn Nets whether, and he shouted out, whether you made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, whether you got the guys water, whether you're making sure the jerseys are ready. Huge shout out to the whole organization for going down to Orlando, championing the whole situation and putting on a good show for us, man. I'm proud of what we did down there. We got some dope shirts. I'm rocking the Brooklyn Bubble Boys shirt. It's gonna be the type of thing that you remember forever, and I'm proud of the Brooklyn Nets. I'm super proud to be a Nets fan. Pass it off.
Absolutely. But I do think before we get into the into the positive side of the podcast, reliving the season that was, thinking about the bubble that was, and all the highs and the lows that we felt, covering the Nets all season. I think we have to first, offer our condolences to Joe Harris and the entire Harris family. It came out after the last game that he left the bubble due to a personal reason. It ended up today being released that his mother has died. She has passed away, and can't say enough about how great of a guy Joe Harris is. Can't imagine what he's going through right now. Obviously, it's a credit to the Nets organization for them to be like bigger than basketball. It's bigger than basketball.
Bigger.
There's no reason for you to stay, especially to someone who's coming up in a contract year. It might have been a business decision, but I like to imagine that it's a personal decision. I think the Nets obviously handled that very well. I think there are some organizations that would not have handled that as well. And just absolute, our thoughts, our prayers, our condolences to the Harris family.
Yeah, I see Alice Harris on Twitter, Talkin Nets, you retweeted, and I saw Pooch wrote something, and I'm just really happy that someone made the executive decision that it was much more important for Joe Harris to go be with his family at that time than to play in Game 4 of what ended up being a 4-game series. This whole year puts into perspective what is important, what is valuable in life in general. Today is Kobe Bryant's birthday. Last night, when it hit 12, I slipped into, just some Twitter stuff, people posting Kobe, and I don't know, I guess I just was on one. I just got deep in thought about, this year and how it started with us losing Kobe. We did an episode talking about Kobe Bryant, and, the media was kind of fucked up in the way that they covered that man's death, and, kind of TMZ and other places jumping on it and people piling on. It was kind of ingenuine, but I knew 2020 was trash as soon as we lost Kobe. And you look at a guy like Kobe, you just want to kind of emulate that. No one's going to be Kobe, and it's hard to reach Kobe levels, but you want to be remembered. You want to be celebrated like he was. Basketball is such a beautiful game, and when you see a figure like Kobe Bryant, his birthday passing, it really makes you think about, man, 2020, we lost a guy like that. Anybody can go like that, and really just be thankful for your family, your friends, what you have, and opportunities you have. And I'm blessed to, be on this podcast. I'm blessed to find Hudson Flynn to do the podcast with me. Have John Boy, Jake, guys at John Boy Media, Matt, who made our T-shirts.
Everyone that stood behind us, a lot of people.
Everybody that was helping Talkin Nets be Talkin Nets this year. Even people that jumped on the pod, like Billy Reinhart, my guy Dane Henson, Matt Brooks, my guy Mike Delivers pod.
Yeah.
We didn't have too many guests. We kind of kept it in house this first year, which is what I wanted to do. John Boy has the John Boy Media Empire and Talkin Yanks and Talkin Baseball, which are huge, and I guess the rest of the network is growing underneath that. But I was kind of trusted to build Talkin Nets, and I was confident that I could do that because of really two things. I mean, take myself out of it. I knew I had the backing of John Boy and John Boy Media, but I also knew I had the Yes Network, and I can't thank the Yes Network enough. Last October, I went into the Yes Network, and I met with Josh Isaac, who does the Brooklyn Nets pregame, postgame. He's been with the Yes Network for, I want to say, 15 plus years. And, I said, hey, I'm a Yankee guy. I'm in the Yankee world, but I'm also a Nets fan. I'm from Jersey. I grew up, rooting for the Nets. And I've always known the Nets were going to have their time, and that time is coming. And, they looked me out. They had the Brooklyn Nets watch along that we did. They also put me in the, I'm going with Brooklyn commercial, and then connected us with people like Ian Eagle, Sarah Kustok, Michael Grady, Chris Sheeran. For us to have those contacts and have those people on the podcast in our first year is huge. I say to Hudson is a sophomore in college. You've already made connections with these people. If you chose to, pursue a career in radio, television, communication, broadcasting, sports, you've got a pretty good early start based on, just this first season of covering the Brooklyn Nets on Talkin Nets with John Boy Media. So all of this is awesome. It's a blessing. Definitely got to shout out the listeners and the people that follow us. We went from 0 to a couple thousand, not a couple thousand, a couple hundred on Instagram, 1,400 on Twitter. And it's not even about that. It's really about the people that I see. I upload an episode overnight and I go to sleep and I see there's downloads in the morning, and I'm like, man, it's a good feeling. I remember, going almost 2 weeks at a time when the Nets were losing and we were trying to figure out, who was going to be the co-host and whether I was going to rock solo or bring somebody else in. And, the numbers slipped a little bit, but you keep going, you keep swimming, you keep working. And here we are, episode 50. The season ends tonight. I feel like it's more universe connecting stuff. That's 50 episodes in the book. We'll look back on 150 and 200 and 350. And when we get there, we'll be talking about KD and Kyrie and a whole different feel for the Brooklyn Nets. And for you Nets fans like us that have gone through this ride of the last, 10 years, some longer, it's finally about to be our time, and we'll be right here on Talkin Nets covering it for you.
Absolutely. And, I'll let myself reminisce a little bit as well. You talked about the passing of Kobe Bryant, and to me that felt like the beginning of a new era in sports, in general, not even just in basketball. It was just a new era of sports without the figure of Kobe Bryant being active in the world of sports, whether it's playing basketball or just being a figure, being a father. But it marked a new era for me as well. The episode we did about Kobe Bryant was my first episode as a full-time co-host of the podcast. I remember doing it it's not even that long ago, just a couple of months, 6 months ago. And the way things have changed over the course of that 6 months, for me personally, I started as a social media intern. I was just running the social media. We had other people working the podcast. We had other people hosting. The initial idea for the podcast wasn't even for it to start until after the All-Star weekend. And obviously things changed, and they changed for the better, and personnel changed, and things like that happened. And we've grown, and we've reached levels that I haven't seen podcasts grow to such an extent in such a short period of time very often. And I think obviously it's due to, Keith's connections and so many other things. But it's due to the people who have supported us, whether it be listeners or, like Keith said, the people at the Yes Network, the people who have backed us, the people who have backed me, Keith for backing me personally as an absolutely green, unseasoned, person just coming on the podcast to talk about sports. I remember the first podcast we did. I was a little nervous. This was back in December before I went full time, and I thought about, this is crazy. I knew that many people weren't listening at that time, but it was still, it gave me some anxiety. And Keith said, just go out there and talk sports. And we've been doing that ever since, and it's gotten us to this point. And I think it's good at episode 50, at a big milestone episode, for just us to look back and to be grateful for all the things that have brought us to where we are and the things that are going to keep going for us. Keith talked about the Yes Network helping us. That isn't over. We are connected with them. We work with them. It is an ongoing relationship. We have even new relationships in the works for this off season, new exciting, whether it be guests or new things we're going to talk about this off season, and we're going to keep pushing. Just because this was a building season for the Nets and a building season for us doesn't mean that we're going to stop building. We're not going to stop pushing. And I think that's a good segue into, us just reflecting a little bit, less on us personally, but more so on this Nets team, on this season, as they move into a new era. I tweeted from the Talkin Nets account. It's the start of the KD era. As soon as that final buzzer went, KD is here. We're 0.0, games away from the beginning of the KD era, from KD's debut. And I think it's exciting to think about that as a Nets fan.
It is. It's what we've been thinking about this for since June. I think it was June like 29th or 30th, 2019. I was in London. I brought my Vince Carter jersey and we're 7 hours ahead and I'm getting the news and I'm looking at Twitter and I'm just trying to make sure that it's legit and that it is real. And it was. And I remember posing in my Nets jersey. I was like, "Oh, I got to send this to where Brooklyn at." It's our time. Like, we landed the big fish in this summer in this free agency. The Nets have won free agency, and 12 and 70 is in the past. Years of not making the playoffs are in the past. We are about to, as Nets fans, walk into the upper echelon of the NBA. We're about to walk into what it feels like to have the championship expectations on your shoulders, not be the bottom feeders. What it feels like to be the new Mecca in New York. The Knicks got to figure it out. They got to build. We kind of joked, Hudson and I, that we didn't even speak on the draft lottery last episode because it didn't matter to us.
Who cares?
The Knicks,
We're not part of that. It's not that. That's not our era anymore. And the Nets haven't cared about the draft lottery since 2014 when we traded all those picks away.
It doesn't matter because we've got all the talent we need and some. Some of these guys aren't going to be on the team next year. We don't have room for everybody. We also know, hey, we stand to lose some players that we love, some guys that we really rooted for and like watching play might not be here next year. But all of that is for one thing. We're trying to have a fucking parade. We're trying to hoist that trophy. We're trying to watch the finals. Like right now, I'm trying to go watch Denver versus Utah because I know the level of competition that's going to bring. I know the level of basketball those dudes are playing. I'm not necessarily trying to watch Justin Anderson and TLC and Jeremiah Martin play against Rondé Hollis Jefferson and OG Anunoby. Like, you know what I'm saying? We're going to be on that level very soon. Every night you watch the Nets is going to be championship level basketball with some of the best players of the world in the world on the court for us, and we're on our way there. It's crazy how now we're at the end of August, which is at the end of the summer. It's episode 50. It's the end of the Nets season. You can feel fall coming along. It's a little chillier in the morning. You might need a hoodie when you leave the crib in the morning. Good. Let the seasons change and let this era start to be built. Because it's only going to be great. It's only going to be better. Hopefully we get into the Barclays Center for the start of next season. I know there's conversations about there being a bubble for the start of next season, but we'll see. And, I think the plan for Hudson and I is to keep doing one episode a week. Like I said, I remember when the Nets lost a few games, we had a bad losing streak and we were trying to figure out who was going to host Talkin Nets. I was always into it, but I wasn't sure. And I wanted to keep things in-house because once you start to just spread it out or spread it around, things aren't going to go. And I trusted in Hudson, and he's put in the work, and I've put in the work, and I think we're going to do one episode a week. And it's only the beginning. So, if you're listening to this, you are an early adopter. If you're listening to this, you were within the first 50 episodes. John Boy and Jake are approaching episode 500. They're going to get to episode 500 by the end of this baseball season. They've been doing Talkin Yanks for over 3 years, I believe. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep working on this. And I can't wait to actually meet some of the Talkin Nets fam, some of the people that we see on Nets Twitter, some of the people that hit us up, some of the people that have bought shirts. I can see the Shopify stuff in the store to see, who bought shirts. I can't wait to actually link with you guys at games, talk about the Nets, talk about the NBA, and be on top of the world with one of the best teams in the league. Soon, coming soon.
And Keith, you talk about everything happening for a reason. Nothing is by accident. We had a whole long conversation about this before we hopped on the podcast. If you want to talk about serendipity, coincidence, fate, whatever it is, boy, I got a story. So for those of you that don't know, I am a student. I'm at Fordham University, and I work there. I'm a resident assistant. I'm an RA, so I'm in charge of a group of kids on each floor. And on my floor this weekend, I was checking people in, getting their keys, setting up their rooms. And I was out of the room when one of my friends was helping me check in, and I was going to the bathroom, whatever. And I come back, and one of the other people in there says my name, and they're checking a kid in. Someone says, "Hudson, get over here." And the kid, who's getting checked in, turns around, looks at me. He goes, "Wait, Hudson?" And I was like, yeah, yeah. And I was like, fuck, did I go to high school with this kid? Did I like play sports with him? I was like, why don't I recognize this kid? And I was like, yeah, yeah. Well, what's your name? Nice to meet you. And he was like, you do the podcast, right? And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, yeah, you're on Talkin Nets, right? And I was like, yeah, I am. And it was just one of the more surreal experiences of my entire life because, he came out, he was like, man, it's like meeting a celebrity. And like, my ego isn't that big, but like, goddamn, if it didn't grow a little bit right there, like, and we talk about coincidence, serendipity. He ended up on my floor. He's one of my residents, and I hope he's listening right now. I'm excited for him to call in the future, and it's just crazy stuff like that happens, and I think that stuff kind of points to things moving in the right direction. I think it feels like the universe is just pointing us in the right direction, and it's saying that we're on the right path. We're doing exactly what we need to be doing, because it wouldn't throw things that way,
Right.
To
And
us if we weren't.
I said to you when you told me, I think I was like, that's how the universe works, bro. Like, none of this is coincidence. None of this is by accident. When decisions and choices got made months ago, it was already written that we would get to where we are now. And I'm so excited for the future, not just with Talkin Nets, but with John Boy Media, with the Brooklyn Nets, with Hudson, what he's gonna do. I knew to go a little younger too. I had some options for people to co-host, and I'm like, I'm not gonna get somebody on the pod that's older than me, that's not bringing in a younger audience. Like, the NBA is what kids 5 to 25 want to hear about, want to learn about. And with this Brooklyn Nets team, it's going to attract so many people that want to latch on to a team or want to learn about a team.
Old head Knicks fans,
Yeah, and it's open door. There are the Nets fans, like even Matt Brooks was respectful of, like, he's like, I live in Brooklyn, I cover the Nets, but no, like, I never want to disrespect those like New Jersey Nets fans that suffered.
The 12 and 70 Nets
and
fans.
You know what? I'm a part of that, and I feel like those Nets fans, we are welcoming people with open arms, because we knew that this time was going to come. We knew that we would not be at the bottom of the league forever. We knew that we were going to get there. And hey, I want to see the Brooklyn Nets and the Yes Center, or the Yes Center, the Brooklyn Nets, the Yes Network, and the Barclays Center start building the anticipation. Show us Kyrie. Show us these guys. Keep showing us on social media what this team does. I want to see them fly back. I want to see what happens. If Jacques Vaughn becomes head coach, or we figure out who the next head coach is, like, we want to see it. This is the beginning of a championship era. This is the beginning of Kevin Durant, Kyrie's era, and whoever else might land with them on the Nets. And we got to enjoy it. There are a lot of people that root for different franchises and, have their favorite teams, and they never get to land the big fish. They never get to put together a competitive team. We just went and competed in the bubble with a bunch of guys that we threw together a couple weeks before. We just went and beat some of the best teams in the NBA without our A squad. Like, I think it was at the end. What's his name made a joke? Not Michael Grady. Who's on? Not Kalishaw. Frank Isola. Was Frank on the post game?
Yeah, Frankie Ice.
So Frank Isola said something like, the Toronto bench scored 100 points, but like, everybody playing for the Nets is the Nets bench. Like, the Brooklyn Nets bench scored 100 points. Like, what are we talking about? Like, what? Like, the bench guys for the Raptors were playing against all bench guys for the Nets. Like, the only starter out there was Jared Allen. It's an interesting time to be a Nets fan.
Yeah, I mean, we were playing Zana Musa in the second quarter. We were playing our bench guys.
And, like, I know, bro. I know you want to win just like I want to win. And as Nets fans, we're going to root for the Nets hard. But I didn't want us to win this game and force a game. Like, I was over it, and I'm over it now. I'm at peace with it. This is the season finale. We are on to greener pastures. No more talking about next year. It's officially next year. Tomorrow, next year begins. Like, the 2021 season begins tomorrow. It begins right now, if you ask me. And I'm like that with my teams, with the seasons. I'm like that. As soon as the Yankees lost Game 6 last year in Houston, fuck it. Taking my Yankee shit off. All right, let's lean into football. Some of you might know or might not know I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm ready to lose followers as soon as I start putting on my Cowboys jersey. It happens every year. But then as soon as the Cowboys go 8-8 and lose to the Eagles, I'm done. And I'm just like, okay, let's lean into the Nets. Or I'm also a Duke fan. Like, it just rolls. And this year is a different year because right now we should only have baseball. But we have the NBA playoffs. We have baseball 60-game season, which is super entertaining right now. Maybe, they're saying some of the best ratings baseball's ever had. And in 3 weeks, the NFL is going to kick off. So it's a wild time for sports. I'm living in it. I'm working hard through it, and I'm blessed to see all of it. It's so rare. You don't even realize like what's going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, first thing I got to do is clown you. You were talking about people that never get to see their teams win. Cowboys fan, love that.
For real, bro. I mean, I was 9 when the Cowboys won a Super Bowl. I barely remember that shit. I mean, I remember it. I remember Neil O'Donnell and Bam Morris played for the Steelers and Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith. But that's a long ass time. I'm a Cowboys fan, a long time suffering Cowboys fan. But we win on Sundays more than the Giants, so we're good.
I mean, listen, I don't know. You were talking about when you were watching the Cowboys win Super Bowls. I was thinking, I was like, fuck, what? I would have been 12 when the Giants won the last Super Bowl, and then I was young. I was 7 before that. I was like, man, Giants better put their stuff together if they're gonna. I don't want to turn into a Cowboys type franchise.
You guys are rebuilding.
Listen,
I honestly, and I mean, shit, we're gonna do some NFL stuff at John Boy Media and Sportscaster, and I don't know if people know this about me. I played Division I college football. I went to Monmouth University, and before that, I took a scholarship to James Madison University. So, there's a level I can talk of football that's a little deeper than I can talk basketball and baseball because I never played at a high level. But I like the Giants. I hate the Giants, but I like what the Giants are doing. I feel like they've got a lot of young talent. They've got a young coach who's kind of forcing them to do things the right way, and they're going to turn it around in a couple of years. Like I want the Giants to be competitive. I live 10 minutes from Giants Stadium.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I really want the days of the NFC East being the absolute worst division in football to be over. I don't want to see any 7-9 teams make the playoffs anymore. That's no fun. But let's take it back. Let's take it back to the Nets because, we don't want to step on Talkin Giants' toes or anything like that, step on your future toes. And let's just talk about how, I sent out a tweet this morning and you talked about it a little bit. The KD era has begun. That was the last game that we're going to play without KD. To me, and I don't know if it feels the same to you, I have a Kevin Durant jersey hanging in the closet right next to me. It still feels surreal to think that Kevin Durant, like the Slim Reaper, out of Texas, out of Prince George County, drafted by Seattle, like that Kevin Durant, the snake,
the Durantula,
the won those rings, the multiple time Finals MVP, is gonna walk out onto that court for the Brooklyn Nets. And we've seen him on the court for the Brooklyn Nets. We were at the season ticket holder event. He was walking around on the court. He was playing with the kids. But I don't know. Like, does it feel like that to you? Because it still feels so surreal.
For me, it feels like this. Like, we've been waiting for so long, and we know that he's healthy. It feels like this lift that we're gonna get. We're gonna have one of the best players in the league on the team. We're gonna get this immediate lift and this attention as soon as we start playing again because we have, I don't know, arguably a top 5 best player in the league if he's healthy as he's going to be. And I think after all this time, he's not only going to be healthy, he's going to be motivated. And so is Kyrie. They're looking at all of this stuff in the bubble. They're seeing these guys play. I can't wait to be able to say, like, yo, I was repping for the Nets way before I knew Kevin Durant would ever be a net. I didn't think Kevin Durant would ever be a net. And it's gonna come. It's gonna come soon. Like, I don't know that
it's already coming.
They're
it's
thinking
already
about
coming.
So they're thinking about kicking off the next season around Christmas or January. I don't think a actual date has.
The official date was actually going to be December 1, but Adam Silver came out and said that felt early to him. So I'm guessing that, knowing how smart the NBA is, they might do a Christmas tip-off.
Yeah, Christmas kickoff would be cool. But yeah, it raises the stakes, right? It's one thing when we're rolling out, TLC and these guys. It's another thing when we're playing with Shane Larkin. It's another thing when we're playing with, you can go back and name a bunch of random, like Trevor Booker, Rondé Hollis Jefferson, you can go back and name, Theo Pinson. It's different when we're rolling out these guys in these Nets uniforms that aren't superstars. They're kind of just, role player guys. Even when we did make the move and we had ISO Joe, we had Darren Williams. Like those guys are not on the level of a KD. They're not on the level of a Kyrie. And having those two together, that duo together, it's going to change the whole culture. And this is going to be completely new. And I'm ready for it. I'm excited for it as a basketball fan. I'm excited for it as a Brooklyn Nets fan. And I'm excited for it as someone in the media that covers the team, that, gets access and gets to share these things with, Talkin Nets fans, listeners. Like, there's a lot coming. And it's just, I don't know, it's a good time. I'm excited for it. So no worries about this season ending tonight. I'm just pumped for what's to come in the future.
You talked about, the media coverage getting ramped up. It's already being ramped up. It's not even there. I was watching First Take. When was it? 2 mornings ago. It would have been Friday, the last time they had the show. And they came on the air and they said, it was Max Kellerman. He came out, he put out a quote. He got a lot of love on the Talkin Nets Instagram and the Twitter. And he went out and he said, the Brooklyn Nets are the prime team in New York. If you look, obviously there's the Yankees, but even across sports, it's the Yankees and the Nets right now. Mm-hmm. And if you're a young person coming up in Brooklyn, coming up in any of the boroughs, that's the New York team. If you want a basketball team, you're not putting on, the blue, the yellow, whatever. You're putting on the black and white just because, you're a fan of the good players. Right. The amount of people that were Lakers fans. Like, I grew up as a Lakers fan really before I became a Nets fan because Kobe was there. Rest in peace. Happy birthday.
Yeah, same.
And, and Shaq was there, and Lamar Odom when he was fun. Like, you like the teams that are fun no matter where they are, no matter if they're in, a secondary borough. Like, the amount of random things that Knicks fans are going to say, like, oh, they're never going to be the best team in New York. They are. They're the absolute, they have the best players. They're not, picking 8th in the lottery every year. They're doing their thing, and it's coming, and it's growing, and as this season ends, it's another moment to me that's surreal to think, like, the next time we see the Nets suit up, we're not running out, Justin Anderson, TLC. I love TLC, but we're not running out TLC at the small forward. We're not running out any of these random players. We're running out Kevin Durant.
Yeah. Yeah, it's star power. And that star power effect is similar to, okay, I talk about Pat Mahomes and how all these kids in America want Pat Mahomes jerseys. There really hasn't been a Chief like that, but there are kids in random parts of this country now that are Chiefs fans because they watched the whole season of Pat Mahomes win the MVP, and then they watched the second season of Pat Mahomes go win the Super Bowl. KD has that effect. I used to love KD, bro. Before he went to the Warriors, I had, KD sevens, the global games, I had his kicks. He was my favorite player in the league. I've always had favorite players in the league, like KD, Braun, whatever. I never thought he would land with the Nets, but I saw it kind of transpiring with the Warriors last year, and it's awesome. There are going to be a lot of kids that are Brooklyn Nets fans just because of KD and Kyrie, and it's gonna kickstart this franchise in a different way. Like we're good, but there's going to be a jolt of energy that comes with, like Fax Kellerman said, us being the number 1 team in New York, and I love it. I love it. The Yankees are the best baseball team in New York. The Nets are the best basketball team in New York, and they both play on the Yes Network. And through the grace of God and the universe connections, I am connected in both of those worlds. You're connected in both of those worlds. Our fans, our listeners, our friends that rock with us and support with us, they're connected too. It's just going to go to a place, dude, that I never really saw it going to, but I'm just happy with it. It could be a lot worse. You could be a Knicks fan. Literally, you could be a Knicks fan.
You could be an Orlando Magic fan.
No, I couldn't imagine. I love it. I love it. It's gonna be so dope, and we're just gonna work. And I promise you that we're gonna keep working on the pod. We're gonna keep trying to book guests. We're gonna keep trying to do cool shit.
Absolutely, lots of stuff. I plan on doing a lot of work. I sent out my my early draft predictions for the Nets. We're gonna cover the offseason. We're gonna have guests on. Just because the season ends and we're maybe slowing down, not doing 2 episodes because we don't have these 2-game schedules to be on. But we're coming out with a weekly episode, and we're coming to you guys with good information, with good banter. and absolutely with good guests.
Yeah, and I think Hudson and I like we're both trying to go watch this this Jazz and Nuggets game. I think Hudson and I will hop on here and just talk about the NBA as we get closer to the finals, and then whatever news comes up in Nets land, because every week there's some Nets news, we'll fill you guys in on that. And then next thing you know, the games will start again, and we'll be trying to do meetups. We'll be trying to do different things. Like we got to set up a Patreon the same way like John Boy and Jake have. Set up a Patreon and have like exclusive deals and things. And I got no problem sending people shirts. If you support the brand, you support the pod, hit me up. I got no problem sending you a Talkin Nets shirt, a Bubble Nets shirt, Bubble Nets versus everyone. Like this has been a hell of a year. I'm pumped for next year. I know a lot of the talk on this pod has been it's about next year. It's about next season.
It's next year,
now
man.
It is.
It's next year. Can I tell you our first bad review that we got from, and I remember his name. I don't even have to look at it. Robert the Tree Guy.
Perfect.
He came on.
Perfect.
And he said, wait, what'd you say?
Perfect. I know exactly where you're going with it.
Yeah. Robert the Tree Guy, he came on, he hopped in our reviews. By the way, review the pod, please do it. It takes 2 seconds, who cares? He came on and he said, another pod. I tried it, but they don't really add anything of substance. We understand that it's about 2021, but that doesn't mean that nothing matters. We never said that nothing matters. But you know what? Who cares now? Because it's 2021. The season is now.
Yeah, and I think right after you wrote that pod, they fired Kenny Atkinson, and we jumped on here and we said, yo, the organization is telling you it's about next season. And the thing that, like Matt Brooks said it to me and a couple other people too, that like I'm connected with people that do Nets pods. I listen to the other Nets pods. And I think the thing that we bring is obviously our personalities and who we are, our connections, who we are, but we're not on here trying to be analysts. We're not on here trying to pretend like we know the X's and O's and the ins and outs of what the Nets are doing or what our opponents are doing. No, we're fans. And honestly, other fans, like, they want to have an outlet where they can go and be in the conversation with other fans. There are a bunch of Nets fans that are having this conversation right now, whether it's with their family of other Nets fans or their friends. Like, yeah, man, what a year, what a great season. Who would have thought, next year, we're on to next year. And like I said, we will do more. We will keep building this pod, keep building this brand, bringing people in, bringing guests on, coming up with cool segments, coming up with cool stuff to talk about, and just being real and transparent. And that is what, makes a good podcast and makes, people really like stick around and tell a friend. And that's what I always, tell people. And that's what I got for tonight. I didn't want to come on here and talk about, point differential or, how we got smoked, because it does not matter. Like, it doesn't matter. What matters is that the Nets fought hard and they played themselves into the playoffs, right? It's another year that we did make the playoffs when other teams didn't. So,
as a 7 seed, again.
Yeah, I'm proud of that. I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of Hudson. I'm proud of John Boy Media, Talkin Nets, the Brooklyn Nets, the Yes Network, everyone that helped this podcast get off the ground and stay afloat. More will come from it, and we'll wrap this thing up. Hudson, you got anything else?
Keith, I want you to wrap it up the same way you always do.
I keep it consistent. I tell you, leave a voicemail. The voicemail is 201-870-0461. Now, the voicemails are even more important as we go into the offseason. I would love to do a voicemail episode like I do on Pinstripe Strong with Joe's McFly, like John Boy and Jake do on Talkin Yanks. It's literally an episode where the fans control what we talk about and the fans get heard. Call up. Also, these reviews. We just talked about how we got a bad review. We've got some good reviews. I sent the shirt out for the last review we got. Reviews and ratings help the pod, right? If we go talk to a player's agent, they're going to look up the pod on iTunes. Even though it's on other things, iTunes is always the go-to. And they'll see, oh, you've got 30-something ratings. You've got this many. No, we need ratings. We need reviews. Whether you want to write something good or bad. I prefer good, but like we always say, like the bad is fine. Be honest. Subscribe, rate, and review the pod. And then make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, at Talkin Nets. Also follow John Boy Media. This is brought to you by John Boy Media. I work at John Boy Media. Hudson is technically an intern at John Boy Media. So make sure you follow us. Hudson, where can they follow you?
You can follow your favorite technicality intern at Hudson Flynn _ on Instagram and Twitter.
You can follow me at Keith McPherson. one thing on Instagram, _, in between the first and last name on Twitter. I'm a full-time employee at John Boy Media. No technicalities there. On-air talent, behind the scenes, social media, whatever it takes. Mac of all trades. What else we got? That's pretty much it. We will plan to see you next Thursday. We'll go back to doing our schedule that we've been doing, recording on Wednesday nights, and then the pod coming out Thursday. We won't leave you hanging. We're gonna obviously, take a little bit of a step back because there's no games to cover. But we'll be here. You will get a new episode every week, and that's all we got until next Thursday. But fret not. We will be back in black with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, who knows who else. We might make some trades. We might make some deals, and it'll be great to be on top. I cannot wait. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn.
We go.